The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at nbradio.us.
Ah, there it is. You tuned into the Farron Dozier Show on nbradio.us, TikTok edition, and Live Sports. Catch me here Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time, only on nbradio.us. Shout out to How did I do? Was that a good take? That might be.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at nbradio.us.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn. Are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. You know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn. Are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. You know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org. Welcome to another episode of the Farron Dozier Show on MB Radio. That's right, mbradio.us. Make sure you go there and check it out. They are giving veterans a voice. I am one of those veterans. They have allowed me to share my platform, stories. Military talk show platform is here exclusively right now on MB Radio, Trench Talk Edition. Oh, I played that PSA for you two times because for myself, I realized that part of the work that I've been up to, I'm still at it. Right? But I sprinkle it over here. I sprinkle the sickle cell trait talks over here. But back then, when I was doing that PSA and that work, that was everywhere. It wasn't just sprinkled. I was inside of that community, hands-on, emotionally, physically, and I haven't been. I talk about it. I talk from it too, though. That's what I'm saying. I gotta figure out the space that I'm in right now because my subconscious mind does not allow me to give myself, credit to the point of not, it's all from God. But you have to have a level of self-love, and I'm battling with that right now. I'm battling with that it's a self-worth, self-love, and am I enough? That's where I'm at. And so if I tell the truth, whether I sprinkle it or talk about it completely, I'm talking about it, talking from it. I just had a talk the other day, and I was able to talk from my sickle cell trait experience. So what is that? Am I the only one? I don't think I'm the only one. I think as a human being, race of people, that we deal with something similar to how I'm thinking about this. Sometimes that's what we think. Sometimes we think that I'm the only one experiencing this, so nobody will go through it. But you would be surprised. Now, people may not understand us. People may not, care about what we care about. But I'm willing to bet people can relate to you. We're not different. So as I've been, dealing with this part of my life where I'm at right now, I ain't gonna take my life. It ain't like that. But there is something going on in this space that I'm in right now, this aspect of life that I'm taking on, that this is what's showing up. It's always been there. I recognize not being good enough. I recognize not being worth it. But I haven't really sat down with that aspect of life and been let me see where this is coming from today. I haven't done that. So that seems to be the problem, or not even the problem, but the area of life that I'm looking at that has me experience life the way it is. And so today's topic, segment 3, is pretty perfect in alignment because it's dealing with the subconscious mind. It's dealing with the heart of us. So as I planned for this show, prepared, meditated, looked from my life, looked in my life, looked out in life, looked had to see what God has to say about this conversation. I looked at what the world has to say about this conversation. I looked at what my personal development education says about this conversation. I looked what LBI Solutions has to say about this conversation. I looked at EQ Athletics, see what they had to say about this conversation around leadership. I looked at WDC, and I looked to see what INT had to say about this conversation, because people say there is no INT. I looked at all those areas outside of me. And then, of course, I looked at what I have to say about it. And what I say about it is it's uncomfortable. So what is that? What is it coming from? I guess we're going to find out, because I'm in the space right now that I'm actively looking to figure out what is this space where I don't experience myself being successful. Like, I do stuff that's successful. I have proof of the success. My experience of it from myself. It's there one day, then it's not. It's there, and then it's not. It's there, and then it's not. And what that does. What it does is how I feel. More so because of my experience of life. And if I'm filtering all that between my mind, will, and emotions, we know what that feels like. That feels like anxiety. That feels like depression. That feels like worry. That feels like concerns. That feels like my circumstances, something wrong with my circumstances. It feels like all that. I don't like that. So we're going to play some more PSAs and come back, and I'm going to get into this first part of this conversation about just some of the things that I've been dealing with as I've been discovering what's going on in my subconscious mind. It is not pretty. It is not pretty. So let's go, and we'll play some PSAs and come right back for the next portion of this talk show. Farron Dozier, Trench Talk Edition.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes. In moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Zetovia salve, made from natural and organic ingredients, good for inflammation, poor circulation, hemorrhoids, yeast infection, lip sores, dry coughs, eye pain, minor cuts and bruises, and ready to purchase at botanicaherbalco.com. 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 All right, welcome back to another episode of the Farron Dozier Show on Military Broadcast Radio Network. That's right, mbradio.us. Make sure you go there, check us out. Check out the other podcast talk shows here on the platform. Other brothers and sisters finding their voice, sharing their stories, sharing information, sharing resources. That's what we get to be about over here on the MB Radio platform. Shout us out, what's the count? If you do have questions about that sickle cell trait talk, you can actually wdconsct.org. I have all of the information up there about this awareness campaign. This is my nonprofit organization. I travel to those people, veterans, community members, wherever I can get this conversation in. I'm traveling to those locations to share the basic information. Not a doctor, not a preacher or a teacher or electrician, Not none of that. Just a patient advocate for this conversation around sickle cell trait and my mental toughness. So yeah, no doctor, no psychologist, no psychiatrist. But I use my life experience. I use from empirical truths. Empirical truths are, experiences that you can look at without, you ain't gotta Google it. All you gotta do is be willing to look in your life and see if some of these conversations align with what you're dealing with in your life. There are some empirical truths about being a human being. And that's why I don't like those conversations about, oh, black men, we deal with this and we only deal with this. And no, not as black men, we're not the only ones doing that stuff. Our human race of people are doing this. Now, as a black male, it's my responsibility to take care of my community. That's a different conversation. If I want to have a conversation just for black men, I could do that. But to say that as a black man, this is what I deal with, then it's like I'm separating myself from the rest of the world. Do you hear that in the language of that? When you say that how you describe your life up against other people as a comparison, then you exclude yourself from the world, and it's like you're the only ones dealing with the situation. Now, it might be our version of the situation, but we're not the only ones dealing with this stuff. We are born in this world. We didn't make it up. We didn't make up the Constitution. We didn't make up none of this. We was born into this life. And depending on how you view that, being born into this life, then you understand that part of our spiritual journey as Christ followers, that you were born in sin and shaped in iniquity. And I'm starting to really get aware and present to what that looks like, to be born in sin and iniquity. And this is sin. Sin is not always a taboo. It's conversation. Sin is just rebellion up against God's word. That's it. That's what sin is. Rebellion up against God's word. If you got some of that, just look at it for yourself. So that's what I've been looking at for myself in this aspect of life that I'm looking at, called success. Again, if I tell the truth, I am successful. I got accomplishments that I could point out. I could show you. I got the accolades. I got all of that. But it's not that part of the success that I'm talking about. It's what does my heart say about success? What does my mind say about success? Where does my mind go when I think about Farron is successful? About Farron. Where does that part of my life go? Who am I talking to when I want to go there? To the secret, deep conversations about who I say Farron is, who my mind says Farron is. To go and challenge that, check that up against something. Usually I don't check it up against anything but how I feel. And I've learned that how I feel this has some corrupted information mixed in with it, how I feel. I discovered that how I feel sometimes I don't use the correct word or the best word to describe how I feel. So I might be describing my life in a word that's not even connected to what I'm saying. But because that's the word that my environment used to describe it, or that's the word that my culture uses to describe it, then that's how I describe it. And then I'm suffering in that description. I'm suffering in how I talk about myself. I'm suffering in that. And this is segment 3. We're talking about the subconscious mind. All that stuff that we're made of. When we go have those meetings, when your mouth is closed, and you go inside that space in your mind, and that voice is already ready to tell you what you better not do because it reminds you of what happened the last time you did that. You know how you felt Yeah, we know how we feel. We don't want it. We told ourselves, I will never feel that again, buddy. Oh, yeah, we did, huh? Yeah, remember that? And this is how it feels. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I don't want to feel that. But you ain't said one word out of your mouth. This is all going on up here and back in here and over here. But you can't even point to it because you can't even see where it's coming from. You just know it's in this area up here. But who's listening to that voice with all that chatter? That's not you. You gotta find out who that is. Who that is for 500. That's just my baby daddy. No, just kidding. Yeah, you gotta figure out who you are, who's talking to you. Challenge those thoughts. Challenge those ideas and ways of thinking and talking and describing life. You're gonna find out that some of that stuff doesn't work today. But it's already there deep inside. We got proof, we got evidence. I felt it before. I know what that feels like. I know what it is. And this is not right or wrong, good or bad. How you feel is how you feel, and that's our reality to how we experience this life. But at some point, you might have to challenge those experiences up against something else. Sometimes you got to challenge that. And depending on what you're using to challenge that up against, it could be a space that might be uncomfortable. It might be painful. And you might have suffering. You might have all kinds of stuff. None of that stuff is wrong or right or bad. So you got to go learn about the subconscious mind. I'm like I said, I'm not about to tell you all the stuff. No, I'm only gonna speak from my life about it. And I can tell you that when I discovered some stuff in my own heart, yeah, it was no longer the truth. It was my truth because it was my experiences. It was what I made it mean about my life. But it was not true about life. And what was funny is some of the stuff that I believe that was true, there's a couple of million more people that believe the same thing too. That's what's funny. That I could surround myself with a circle of people and we think about the life the same way, and then we agree about that subject and even about the upset too. And then we fight against the upset. That doesn't help us. That's not healthy. Yes, I believe that leadership is born out of anger, not out of tolerating life. Because anger ain't bad either. Anger is not a bad thing. What's in your heart is not even a bad thing. How you think is not a bad thing. What you think is not a bad thing. It's not for me to tell you that's a bad thing to think about. That's bad for you to talk about. It's not for me to tell you that. Up against some conversations, it might not be the way to have a conversation about that stuff, though. But beyond that is my opinion, is your opinion, and our opinions ain't right. And if you know about opinions, everybody got one. Everybody. There's some things as human beings that everybody got. And everybody got an opinion. And those opinions aren't right or wrong, but it's the ability to look at your opinion, set it aside, and find out, well, how did you get your opinion? Because I know how I got mine. I know where mine came from. If you've done the work, you know where your opinions come from. They're outside influenced. Usually our opinions about life is not our own opinion. It's about something that we heard or we agree or our environment and our culture. I'm going to keep pointing back to our environment and our culture around this subconscious mind conversation today. Because the empirical truth is there is a part of that you are a product of your environment. There is a partly truth that you are a product of your environment. You can look in your life and you can point to it probably too. Yep, that came from my environment. How I think about that came from my environment. How I talk about that. My buddy Caldwell says, you go to school from kindergarten till 12th grade. Some of us go to college. Some of y'all get y'all degrees. Some of y'all become doctors and PhDs. And with all that English that we learned in school, we come home and we talk how our environment talks. We use words to describe life, how environment describes that life. Not how we learned about it in education. We talk and describe life how our environment taught us how to talk. That's the empirical truth. Look at it for yourself. No matter how much education you got, when you show up in your hood or in your home, it's back to fashizzle, my nizzle, big bizzle, fasheezy, wheezy, how it beezy. But we have the education and the knowledge, of course, to decipher how and what words to use in the context of a conversation based on the definition and the adjective and the verb. And if it's a pronoun or a noun, yeah, we know, we learned it, but our hearts goes back to that environment. My point is, imagine what's in your heart, downloaded in your heart, subconscious mind that comes from your environment. And what does it feel like to have to then go against everything that you learned? What? How can I challenge everything that I grew up in my environment from my mom and my dad and my uncles and my sisters and brothers and cousins? Like, that's what it was. That's what they said it was. What you mean it's not that? Real live. That's what happens when you live and just start pulling stuff out the ear. But what do you mean? What do you mean that I got to challenge the first 40 years of my life? I got to challenge the first 35 years? Well, if you're willing to, the sooner the better. How's that? The sooner you challenge it, the better it is to deal with. How about that? Because if we can teach our children how to think early on, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, not what to think, but how to think, then guess what we do? That child is growing and developing in a context that gives them their power and their strength and their confidence, full potential of confidence. At that age, not at 40, when I found mine, it was like, you got to be kidding me. All the stuff that I made up was not true about myself. But that stuff lives in our hearts. That's why the Bible says you've got to renew your heart. You got to renew your mind. Okay? Some people leave me some message over here. They want to join my live next time. All right, we'll check you out. Check out who you are. So this segment is about your subconscious mind. You got to go look that up. You got to go find some resources. Go talk to some doctors. Find out. Brain science is a great place to start. I got a little brain science knowledge. Basics, enough to self-examine myself up against myself. And then I can articulate it so I can share with you. That's what we're doing today. See, in my subconscious mind was a whole lot of stuff that just wasn't true. True, I mean divine truth, right? Not opinion truth. Because you're going to say, well, how do you know? And I'm talking about, I'm looking at the level of my mind, my heart, my subconscious mind, up against what divine truths are downloaded in there. There are some basics about gravity. I know the divine truth about gravity. I'm not going to jump off my roof to see if I can float. So we have some scientifical, divine, however you want to call it, they can't describe it, truths. And we use them. I don't know nothing about no Wi-Fi or where it's coming from in this force field, but we on Wi-Fi. I'm on Wi-Fi. I'm using it. I'm being used by it because if it goes out right now, this show's over. And I have a lot of faith in that Wi-Fi and the company that provides it to make sure that when I want to use it, it's there. How does that transition into life? How does that transition into another aspect of life? And for us as veterans, if I put us in the context as a veteran, as myself as a veteran, I dealt with a lot of stuff from my military career that I had to cipher through and unravel and unfold. And now I can't use that today. It was good for the service, but it's not good today. There are ways and means of being a soldier that I was created, that I added to my life as an ingredients that now after being retired for 12 years, those ingredients are no good no more. But guess what? I've downloaded those into my heart to the point where some of those are natural responses. See, our environment teaches us our natural responses. The natural ones to survive that environment. Don't touch the stove. Don't put your finger in the plug. We start that off as soon as the baby starts walking and crawling. Or crawling and walking. We already know that we got to be used by those plugs to not let that baby put their finger. All this, don't touch the iron and the curling iron and this and the don't do or go. Like, we instill all that survival stuff that goes into our hearts. That becomes automatic. AUTO-matic. That you have behaviors, that I have behaviors that are automatic. That I ain't even got to be there for them to work. See, I ain't got to think about not putting my finger in the plug no more. Because I see the plug and I automatically know that we ain't going in there. And I'm so cautious that even if I plug something in there, I'm cautious about what's possible with that plug in, getting that close to it. Now, those analogies might be funny. They might be like a little bit off. But you know what? Jesus talked about a lot of things in parables in the Bible. He talked about a lot of truths, divine truths that were hidden in those parables. Because you might not be ready to hear that. You might not be ready to hear this conversation about your subconscious mind. You might not be ready to hear the empirical truths about your subconscious mind, because all you got to do is look at your life and examine with what we're saying, and you might realize that, oh, snap, that's what that is? Yeah, that might be your version of what's in your heart, of why you feel the way you feel. So I'm going to come back and point to some of these things that I had to discover that was in my heart, but also discover where they were coming from. Because my environment passed down some information from their environment that came from their parents' environment, that came from their parents' environment, traditional stuff, conversations and stuff. That once got to me, that don't sound like that no more. That don't sound like that's, maybe there was some stuff missing. Like those cliches that we talk about. My dad taught me this cliche, God rest his soul. It's not what people think about you, it's what you think about them that matters. That was the cliche my dad taught me probably about 7 years old, maybe 6. Yeah, because I didn't see him no more from 8 to 15. So had to be around 7 years old. My dad instilled that conversation, that cliche. Is not what people think about you, is what you think about them that matters. Pretty much he's saying it's not, don't let what people say about you matter. It's what you say about that matters. Okay. But I realized that he left a whole lot of details in that cliche was left out. See, in that conversation of it's not what you think about me that matters, it's what I think about you that matters, is who do I view myself as first is what matters. So how I view myself first matters, because what you say about me don't have to matter to me, because I know how I view me. But that takes a level of confidence, a level of self-love, a level of self-esteem, a level of self-worth for someone to experience that conversation in the way that my father was attempting to share with me from the cliche. So the cliche left out the ingredients and the ways of being versus telling me what I need to do. Don't do this because of this, and you do this because of this. Well, I could do all that the way he told me, but if I feel worthless, I'm gonna let what you say bother me. If I don't feel good enough, I'm gonna let what you say about me bother me. Because I don't feel that myself either. And you just pointed it out. And sometimes as adults, if you point that out about me, and you pointed it out, and I'm not your friend no more, and we fighting. I'm not your friend because you don't get no right to tell me about me. But I don't say that to you. I say that to myself. And I know it's true. And that makes it worse. Because you said it and I didn't say it. How did you say that and I didn't say it? And then when people ask me how come I'm gonna talk to you no more, I ain't gonna say because you told me about myself. I'm gonna say we had a disagreement about something, or we just fell out. We had an argument. These are the things that I'm saying that are the ingredients of what's in your heart that has been downloaded, that has been taught to us, that have been given to us, outside influence that altered our experience of ourselves, that we formed opinions about ourselves first. That's the part I'm talking to. That's the part I'm pointing to. That part of us is the part that doesn't work. So if you want more information about what I'm up to outside of my sickle cell trait talks, the link tree right there is cool. Link tree is Farron Dozier. It has everything that's connected. I got connected to myself outside of sickle cell trait. See what I'm saying? It's all sickle cell trait related anyway for my community. FarronD.com has everything else on there as well. So if you want more, that's pretty much my main one that I use outside of the WDC ONSCT. You can go to either one of those and you'll find out more about what I'm up to in the community. And really, some of my success stories. How about that? As I'm finding space to be okay with my success and acknowledge my success, thankful to God for providing me all this stuff that He's given me. These are some results that were produced. And you can find those right there or down there. That's all. Previous success stories. And one of those is directly coordinated for sure, and correlated to why I'm even in front of you talking about sickle cell trait. So I did find some more PSAs on here. I like this song right here. So we're going to play this song and come back in the last 20 minutes of the episode and kind of wrap this up for today. All right. This is the Farron Dozier Show on MB Radio. Again, thank you for listening in. It's just me. I'm Han Solo today. Shouts out to Big Dre. I'll talk about where we're going to be at on Saturday right after this.
It's the guts and it's the glory. 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's them handwritten letters from home. It's them sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's a line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Hey. From the fields of Indiana to the swamps of Louisiana, to the golden coast of California, Uncle Sam's the only family he's got. His purple heartbeat won't stop, and his 18th birthday was the day he was born. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's the light. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, stand on the front line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, pay the ultimate price. Oh. He was the man of the house when he was born. His family is proud but torn. But if you knew him, you would understand. He was raised on how to be brave, just to see the flag still wave. And then he came home with only one hand. He's Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, hear the light. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Red, White, and Blue, stand on these front lines. Red, White, and Blue, he'll pay the ultimate price. Lay down his life. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. March in line, march in line. Hey. Hey.
This is Farron from the Farron Dozier Show, 8 p.m. Pacific Time on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website, the station that leaves no listener behind, and MBR Radio. That's right, MBR Radio on all their streaming platforms, including MBR Radio on Roku TV, Sunday nights live, 8 p.m. Pacific Time on KCAA Radio and MBRradio.us. The Farron Dozier Show. For more information, search farrond.com. Tune in to the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Brought to you by Sports Collective TV, Sports Collective Radio, and Sports Collective Media. We got the Heme Factor, we got In the Zone, and we got Fourth Down in the 20-second timeout sports segment. All for you right here on the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website with my guest hosts Robert Lamar and Coach Will. Catch us on Sports Collective Media on Instagram and Facebook. And make sure you watch us Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the kcaradio.com website. Music, talk, sports, and so much more. The Farron Dozier Show. Oh yeah, that's my sports show. Make sure you catch me on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also stream from the KCAA Radio.com website. The station that is no listener behind. Right? So we got a couple of different brandings over here. Giving veterans a voice on MB Radio, and the station that leaves no listener behind on KCAA. I'm surrounded by some good platforms, y'all. Very, very grateful. All right, so as I was sharing with you this, this last piece of this conversation, or second to the last piece. So I've done the work for myself. I've found something that I trust. I'm gonna use the word trust. I found some principles that I trust. Lo and behold, these principles that I've happened to find, they're almost identical as the biblical principles. They might be a different language, but when I put them together and I challenge my experiences up against those experiences, up against those principles, in each one of those, there's some similarities. But I had to pick one. What is going to be my main filter? What information am I going to put in my heart newly that's going to be the one thing that no matter what happens in life, I'm going to filter all that through this one filter that purifies my thoughts, that purifies my experience of myself. What conversation am I going to use? It is a conversation that I got from my environment. Yeah. The spiritual piece of my environment is the Bible. It's the biblical context. It's the biblical principles, not the religious. See, the religious part of that is people who are still searching for that thing to connect themselves to. So I'm not talking about religion. I experienced a religious conversation though. Let me tell you that. I experienced that religious conversation to the point where I walked away from church the first time at 21 years old because I just could not live that perfect life. So I use the Bible as my ultimate divine truth filter that I trust, that I had to get to try. I didn't always trust the Bible. Let me tell you, I didn't trust it. But these last 6 years, I've challenged my life experiences up against that word, that today I can tell you I trust the word because they're principles. Those stories and those passages are happening today in my own life personally. And I look at some of those stories, I can see myself in those stories. So when I looked at my heart and I'm like, okay, I got to now challenge the first 40 years of my life. What am I going to challenge it up with? And I first found this personal development education. You can talk to me about that if you have questions. But that education that I took in that space of being lost, in that space of depression and anxiety, suicide ideation, I had to find something that was going to take me out of that. Challenge those suicidal thoughts up against. Challenge the anxiety experience up against. Challenge the depression experience up against. Not the activity of those, because we know what anxiety looks like, feel like. We can almost describe it pretty well. Self-loathing, disappointment. So when I looked in my heart with that education, I discovered some things about Farron that just wasn't the truth about Farron. That I could literally say that at 40 years old and being 5 years old, those two conversations, that 5-year-old conversation needs to be put to rest, because that's not, I've been living from that 5-year-old conversation for 35 years. So I know what I got 35 years of that 5-year-old running those thoughts, that 5-year-old decision experience, running those emotions and feelings and conversations. But I didn't know that. I knew the 5-year-old story in my head. I never talked about it to anybody, but it always swam in my head. But I found something that actually allowed me to grab that story, look at it for what it's worth, take out all the opinions and reasons why not and why, and give all that up, and look at it for what is it? What happened? That happened. Now, before you make it mean something about what somebody else said about you, or your parents said about you, or that friend said about you, or your grandparents or your favorite uncle said about you, before that, what did you make it mean about you first? And I realized I made that decision mean that my mom abandoned me, my dad didn't love me, I'm not going to be vulnerable with women, I got to be cautious with women. I, of course, the male stuff about friends, love, the 14-year-old decision about being vulnerable and defending myself was against my peers as a male and a female. Like, those are things that I had recreated in my mind at those crucial points of those experiences, that I made it mean something about Farron. Nobody said nothing about Farron. They said what they said, but nobody gave me meaning. I made it mean I'm not good enough. I made it mean I'm not worth it. In my soul, in my mind, my will, my emotions. But see, this is the other thing about that conversation. When you get to the spiritual aspect of it, then why did I make up all those things about myself that I'm not good enough and I'm not worth it? Because it still wasn't me. It still wasn't the 5-year-old Farron, although it looks like it at the surface. But there's a spiritual battle that's taking place right now, that's been taking place from the beginning of time. Or should I say, when Satan did what he did with his pride, right? Because that's where it started. And we're going to talk about that before we get out of here. Because I think we all have a level of pride, right? We all experience pride. Whatever your pride is for yourself, that you label that pride, you label that behavior, and you label that experience combined as pride. And that's usually from an upset. That's why we're talking about our subconscious mind. The heart of us is created to survive life, so we stay alive. But if the brain and the mind can't tell the difference between the real and imaginary threats, then how do you know what's a real threat to your life and what's an imaginary threat if the brain can't tell the difference? So that means you have to have a test for your reality, for your mind, will, and emotions, but you have to have something for your spirit. And what are you testing your spirit up against? So I started testing my soul first. I went to my heart. That's what showed up first. And I tested every story that I could think of. I've tested every story that I could think of in the past 15 years up against that personal development education. And most of the stories, if not all, I want to say all, I don't like the word all, but in this context, all the stories that I've challenged, I've discovered something about that story that was tainted. Even if it was tainted by me, I'm the one. I was mad at my dad from a conversation at 5 years old when he wasn't even the one that told me that what was going on. Somebody in the room told me that he left. I'm mad at him for somebody telling me that he left. Not that he left, but I was mad because somebody in the room said, oh, he left. But I'm mad at my father. 5 years old. What is that? We talk about brain science. You got to study brain science. Promise. When you just get the basics of the brain, that the brain is viewing life from perception patterns, memory patterns, and action patterns. That's the basic empirical truth of how the brain functions. It has memory patterns, action patterns, and perception patterns. And as a child, the brain is developing. Empirical truth is that the brain is developing as a child from day one. From in the womb, the brain is developing. We're birthed into this environment, into our culture, into our environment, and our environment is now teaching us of how to survive our environment with behavior and characteristics. And some of those behaviors from our parents, flawed behaviors, flawed conversations that they never challenged, that they never knew to challenge. And that's not wrong. That's why you can forgive your parents. Forgive your mom and dad because they didn't know. They knew what they knew. If they had you when they were like 16 to 25, they didn't know nothing about life either, pretty much. They still trying to figure it out for themselves, and then you came along. So give your parents some compassion. I didn't have no idea what I was doing when my first child was born. So if you understand the brain patterns, perception patterns, and action patterns, all those are the memories stored in your brain that your brain is firing. That's why you can walk in a door and navigate a door because you've been through doors before and you have brain patterns that remind you, okay, this house looks like this house. So then we walk. Come on, that's what that does. And you ain't even got to be there. The brain's doing it. That's how powerful that brain is. So if the brain is that powerful and the subconscious mind is that much more powerful because it's storing information to make sure that you don't hurt yourself when you walk in that door, to make sure you don't touch nothing that's hot when you walk in that door. Like you ain't even there. Your brain is already remembering and feeling and reacting to life. Moment. Automatically. But you think it's you. I thought it was me. And I realized it wasn't me. It wasn't me. Well, maybe it was, but not the me that you're talking about. See, I can't point to me. See, if I say me, that's my shoulder. Me, that's what I'm told is my head. That you is inside of you. That you is that experience of your life that is battling now because you want to be free and have fun and love one another. But your mind is like, you better not do that because the last time we showed love, we got hurt. We got rejected. We got disappointed. It didn't feel good. It felt like that same first time when you felt that breakup in kindergarten. So you're going to realize that same body sensation that you feel in your adult life, you felt that body sensation for the first time in your past. And then you react to that pattern. You have a view of that pattern because you know that if I do this, I'm going to survive the pain of that breakup. But your spirit gets no say-so in that. Because then we wonder, why do these relationships keep turning out the same way? Why does this relationship feel like the last one? Why is it starting to feel like the one before? Yeah, because we never healed the ones from the past. We're living from those brain patterns, the automatic ones, the ones that already got opinions about life, what already our environment taught us how to respond to in life about that subject. That's what I'm pointing to this segment. What's the ingredients of your heart, your subconscious mind? You've got to find something to challenge it. See, like the airplane, right? I use this as my one of my talks. So the airplane, it's never on track, right? Because what they do is when they take off, they'll put it in autopilot, right? They'll point it in the direction, they'll put the coordinates in, and they'll put it on autopilot. But guess what? Guess what? That plane is never on course. But there is a system in the plane that makes those corrections to keep it on course. There's a software. There's a program that when they put that autopilot program, push that button in, that software kicks in and it controls that plane going that fast, at that size, and is keeping it on course. So my question is, what are you being used by that gives you that power that puts your life back on course? What are you gauging your life up against that keeps that autopilot on course? What software are you using? And so you might be using, like I was using some outdated software. I had downloaded some outdated software. That software did no longer work no more. It was outdated. Outdated. So I had to find some new software at 40. I had to go find some new software to download to my heart. First I gotta read it and look at it and make sure that I want to trust this software to put it in my mind. So I had to find something that I trusted to challenge my life up against. So the philosophy that I got in my heart, that was the first part I got in my heart, was my philosophy. And it says, a plane in autopilot self-corrects. It's never on course. Live life like the auto-correcting system of that plane. So what I did was, and thank God for, this is where I give God the credit. I give my mom prayers the credit, because my mom told me she was praying to God that he gave me something to help me deal with this depression and anxiety and suicide ideation. My mom said she was praying. So I could tell you that prayer works from experience, from a life testimony, from a real life, that my mom prayed for me to find something, and God provided it. In the world, in life, I'm in the education still today, 15 years later. That prayer is if I just stand on that one prayer as proof that my mom's prayers came true and that I found that education, I say yes, prayer works. I don't need no, that's my proof to you. And that program, that education, that personal development course became my new software. So that means that now that I trust that principles of that education, as I began to listen and download it in my mind and try it on and see if that story that I made up about my dad was true, guess what? It wasn't. In that education, there was something in that education that I saw that story about my dad wasn't true. It was my perception, but it wasn't the truth, and it wasn't the divine truth. And then I looked about the story about my mama, and it wasn't the truth. It was another perception and an action pattern and a memory pattern. But even up against that conversation, It wasn't the truth. So those two stories, I had to let those stories go. I had to first admit that I made those stories up about my mom and my dad. Who wants to make up a story that their mom and dad doesn't love them and your mom abandoned you? Who wants to make up that story? A child doesn't come into this world wanting to make up a story about their parents, that my dad doesn't love me, that my mom abandoned me. But for some reason, that becomes our experience of the situation. But if you know that you're born in this world in rebellion, in sin, up against God's word, and you are shaped in iniquity, that means the world, that the way that you view it and feel it and see it and touch it is going to be corrupted. It's going to have the ability to get corrupted from birth. If you believe that and you look in your life and you can see that and you can apply that and you can test it and be like, oh, man, my mom did abandon me. I was by myself for 90 minutes at home. So that whole abandonment story felt so real to an 8-year-old. I had so much proof from 8 to 40 that I was abandoned, and I described it as being abandoned. I described it. I had proof. I had the key. I had proof. I felt it. I lived it. And it means that my mom abandoned me. All mixed into all of that together. And that education showed me one principle. And that one principle unraveled that whole story. What was I left with? I'm questioning my existence, like, wow. But because I was willing to look in my life and tell the truth to myself, I just went in, all in. I've been all in for 15 years, peeling those layers off. That's why I'm in front of you. That's how I get to be in front of you. Because God needed me to be in front of you for whatever reason. And it's not for the whole world to see. It's for those who show up when they show up, or wherever I show up. If it's 1 or 2 people, or nobody. What's in your heart? What have you downloaded? You got to go and find something to challenge those up against. And I'm saying that my first piece of software was that personal development education. And as a plane in autopilot self-corrects. You got to think about that. Like, think about that. A plane that self-corrects. They put it in autopilot. It's always, if the plane drifts, it corrects it and puts it back on within that target radius. It goes through the turbulence and bounces around. But that system, that software, is stabilizing and keeping it in the direction that it needs to be going. That's not the plane doing that. That's the software that the pilots, people who own the company, the plane company, trust to use to guide that plane. That's a parable. There's some truth to life in that parable of the auto-correcting system. You got to use that up against your life and tell the truth to yourself. And then you'll discover that, oh man, the stuff that's in my heart is not the truth. And that might be enough to soften your heart and take a look at some of the stories that you made up. To start to unravel some of the stuff in your mind, that your mind talks to you about, that you're stupid, that you're not good enough, that you're not worth it, the I'm nots, that I'm a burden on my family. Whatever that I'm not is, we all have some version of it. It may not start off as I'm not. It's a way that we view ourselves, that we don't like ourselves. And we don't want to experience that we don't like ourselves in that experience either. And we will pretend to avoid it The other part of that conversation, in my heart, I found a new philosophy. Because the one that I used, that software was outdated. So I agreed with, I can tell you that the software that was in my heart from 0 to 40 was, it was corrupted. It had some misfiles in there. It had some software. It had some experiences that didn't get downloaded properly. Right? It had some conversations in there that didn't have all the truth told to me, or none of it told to me. But because it's an auto-correcting system, it's going to make up some stuff to make it complete. And so guess what? The navigation system, when it gets outdated and it doesn't get new coordinates updated inside of it, it's going to start to drift. And you might end up taking off going east, and you might end up southeast. Or you might end up northeast because the software is outdated and it's getting some corrupted, or it's missing some new updates from the world or from the Bible, because the Bible is a living document. So there, you read the same scripture 5 times in 5 different aspects of your life, and you get a different meaning of that word for that story, for that particular time in the moment. That's how powerful the word is. It's the living word. So what system are you using to autocorrect? So I had to go get a new philosophy. And I trust, I can tell you 100% trust my new philosophy. 100%. I even challenged that philosophy of Maslow's hierarchy. I challenged it. It has some empirical truth. Yes. There are basic needs of a human being that we need. Basic needs: food, water, shelter, clothing, air, and reproduction. Like 6 of them. Sometimes you might see 5 or 6 or 7. That philosophy is one aspect. It's real, and I related to that early on. Oh yeah, basic needs. I gotta have shelter. Look at the commercials. Look at the homeless conversations in the world. Let's talk about that. Look at that. Let's challenge Maslow's chart of what the world has to say about that. Shelter. Everybody, you got to live somewhere. Hey, even if it's on the street corner in a box, the person knows as a human being it needs shelter. Now, it might not be the shelter that you desire. It might not be the shelter that you want, or it may be some other stuff that went on in life that has you be in that box of shelter as a box. Not my opinion to say. But shelter, and look at all the aspects of life that are directly connected to shelter, from mortgage loans to trying to buy a house, make all this money to buy a house, that's blah blah blah, all the way to people who want to live in an RV like me. If I leave my house and sell my house to live in an RV, am I homeless? But shelter. People are making millions and billions of dollars talking about one of the basic needs of what it is to be a human being. To experience being a human being. That's the part that we don't see in that. Shelter gives us the experience of being a human being. But that came from back all the way back in the day. Biblically, they had some type of hut or tent to protect them from the elements. That was to survive. Yes, we need shelter to survive, but it's not for me to tell you that you got to have this kind of shelter to survive. Don't believe me? The prodigal son gave up his inheritance. He took his inheritance from his father with his brother, and he took his own inheritance. I wanted that. I'm ready to get out of here. I'm ready to live my life. He takes his inheritance and he leaves. He blows it all. And what he says, I lost it all. I blew it all. And without his inheritance is gone. He has no shelter. He has nothing. Where does he end up? He ends up living with the pigs. Hold on. He ends up living with the pigs. He really had to find some shelter. So his heart was so diminished and disappointed in himself that the best thing that I could go live under is this little piece of wood thing with some pigs. That's how low I felt. Is what people describe as a pig. You a pig. We didn't make that up. We describe each other like that. You're a pig. So he goes and he lives with the pigs. But guess what? Guess what the Holy Spirit showed me in that passage, in that parable? See, the parable has truths in there. But if you just look at it from him living with the pigs, then that's all you would see. Yeah, he messed up because he took his inheritance. But he deserves to live in the pigsty. He deserves to live with the pigs. That's what that prodigal son passage did for me when I got this software. And I started downloading some new updates. And I put the word in there. And I put the personal development education and the psychology classes in there. I updated that software. And I realized that in that passage, when I filtered that passage with what the Bible says, he was living with the pigs. But the same wood that was used to provide the shelter for the pigs is the same wood that we use to build a house. That was probably with his dad's house. So do we see that, yes, he lived with the pigsty in the pig pen with wood, protected from the shelter. Yeah, he could have been living at home with his dad in a probably big old house mansion style with that kind of wood. But God provided for him in the passage. It may not look like God provides for us, but the same wood is the same wood in the house. The pig pen wood is the same wood that they would build a house with. So we have a choice. We want to live in the pig pen or we want to live in the house. Whatever that is for you. But the most important, impactful part about that passage, as he lived in the pig pen, he ate pig food. We'll talk about that real quick. Pig slop, they say it's sometimes potato skins, right? All the leftover food crunched together, and that's what the pigs eat. Well, how many of y'all go to Applebee's and all the other restaurants and be eating potatoes with potato skins on it? With cheese and mushrooms and whatever on top of the potato, and has the skin on next to it, and you eat that whole baked potato with the skin on it. Well, guess what the prodigal son was eating in the pig pen? Pig slop. Say he was eating potato skins. God still provided food for him, even if it was just the pig skin, the potato skin. But as you read that passage, the biggest thing that came from that for me was that one day, in the midst of all that pig pen and pig slop eating, he came to himself. He came to himself was enough for him coming to himself to realize that, wait a minute, this gotta be something better. There's gotta be a better type of shelter. There's gotta be a better type of food quality that I could be eating. Oh, let me go back to my dad's house, because that's where I grew up. That was my environment. Let me go back there. But you know what? I took my inheritance. I blew it. I'm in this pig pen, pig slop. I'm gonna reduce myself to just a servant to my father, just so I could get back in the house. Maybe he'll accept me back because I'll just reduce myself. Because I'm disappointed in myself. Because I blew my inheritance. I'm embarrassed. I have shame. So let me just reduce myself to a slave, and I'll go back to my dad, and maybe he'll have mercy on me and let me move back in the house, and I'll just be a slave and serve him. But when you read that passage, what did the dad say? The dad said, "No, you are my son. Let's have a party." He didn't say to his son, "What? Yep, see, I told you. I told you not to take your stuff and leave. Look what you ended up. Told you shouldn't have done this. If I was, it just no." The dad didn't do none of that. His dad saw his son and said, "My son, you're alive? I thought you were dead." The son was being provided by God in the pig pen with the pig slop, and whoever else let him live in there. Maybe he was hiding in there and they didn't know he was in there. But the biggest thing was that he came to himself. Some people say you got to have a coming to Jesus moment. Sometimes you have to have a coming to yourself moment. That one moment, like I was in, that life was over and I felt it. I had proof. I had evidence. I experienced it being over. I told myself it was over. But guess what? No one in my life told me that my life was over. Not even the army didn't tell me my life was over. The army said you're going to get a medical board. I made it mean my life was over. No one told me that. My parents didn't tell me that. My friends, no one that I could think of ever told me that. Oh, you get out of the military? Oh, your life is over. No one said that. My mind said that to myself. To survive the experience of a career-ending injury. Not from what a soldier is usually known for, getting injured in battle. How do you get injured from exercising for the exercise test? Well, guess what? People get injured from the exercise test too. They pull hamstrings. Anything can happen during an exercise test. Anything can happen. But what did I make that episode mean is what happened to me. Is that I made it mean my life is over. And then I was mad at myself for sprinting. Like, why did I sprint? Like, I sat with that. When I discovered where it was coming from, I had to sit with, why did I sprint that day? Why? It was 15:45. I was at 15:45. I had 17:21 to pass the APFT. Why did I sprint? Why did I sprint that day? If I didn't sprint, I wouldn't have collapsed. I wouldn't have had the rhabdomyolysis. I wouldn't have triggered my sickle cell trait gene to mutate and lose oxygen to my body. I wouldn't have been dying on the inside and looking fine on the outside. I had to sit with that. I had to discover, where did that come from? Well, guess what? Our environment in the military teaches us, especially when you're at a school training facility, and especially if it's for your rank, next rank, you better get the best APFT score you could get. We train all year to get the best score possible for that APFT. So those numbers get close to 300 as possible. That's trained in our culture. Hey, when you get to school, you better get the best score, because those are points, and those points add up. And the higher you score in that APFT, the better your score when you graduate, and you need those points to graduate to go from E7 to E8. So that's where it came from. It was in my heart already. It was already in my mind that I'm at school. Hey, I heard that time, 15:45. Oh, let me sprint. All I'm saying is, I had to go back and heal from those decisions that I made about myself. I made the decision to sprint. I didn't have to. That decision, deciding that, almost had me take my life with suicide. I'm going to be talking about some conversation in the future shortly around the IDE, the IDEs. the homicides, the genocides, the suicides, the pesticides. Decide. What is the experience of the IDE of those words? To kill off. Suicide, you kill off your life. Pesticide, you kill off the elements that's attacking the fruits or the bugs. We need bugs. All right, we need the bugs. The bugs are supposed to go to the fruit as well to get nurture, whatever, from the fruit. Genocide, homicide. That's a whole nother conversation that I'm going to have because it all comes back to the ingredients of what we're talking about in segment number 3 is what is in your heart, what is in your subconscious mind. And Jesus Christ's message was to repent and renew your heart, renew your mind, change the way that you think. Our thoughts are not God's thoughts. Our ways are not God's ways. You have to grab those thoughts, take them captive, because they will mess up your life. The thoughts, the heart of us will mess us up. The heart will keep you from becoming the person that you think you want to be or you need to be or trying to be. See, my fear of success is not that I'm not successful. My fear of success is what happens if all the stuff that I'm up to, it turns out. Then my mind can no longer tell me I'm not good enough. Then my mind can no longer tell me that I'm not worth it. So then what is my mind going to say to Farron about Farron if that's part of who Farron believes that he is not being good enough and not worth it? That's where the work is at. I spent an hour and 27 minutes to tell you that. That's the work. And sometimes we don't want to go back and feel that pain, what that feels like. It's uncomfortable. It's painful. It's hurtful. But that's the other side of that is freedom. The other side of that is peace. The other side of that pain is love. Once you get past it on your body. So I'm going to get out of here. It's been 90 minutes. I've talked for 90 minutes. Again, segment 3 is about your subconscious mind, and you got to find out what's been put in there. And a lot of stuff that's in there came from our environment, our culture, and it's not our own influence. And if that is not of your own influence, then where did the influence come from? Update your heart. I had to get a new philosophy. That Maslow's chart, again, I love to talk about that because when I challenge that Maslow's chart up against what Landmark had to say, yes, Landmark agrees with Maslow. Those are the basic human needs to be being a human being. It doesn't define who you are as a person. Your shelter doesn't define you. Your clothes don't define you. Your all that material stuff doesn't define you. But as a human being, I ain't got the right car. I ain't got the biggest house. I ain't got this. You're comparing your opinion about up against other people. And our environment cultivates that conversation too. They got a better house than us. He got better shoes than I do. It must be because I'm not good enough. And my parents don't care. It goes back to what we think, stories. That's your philosophy. You got to check that. You got to find something to believe up against. So you want more information about that conversation? I'm open to share with you, talk about it, talk from it. I had to get a new philosophy, ideology, yes, a new ideologies, new software for update my ideology software because it was outdated. And I had to get a new theology. All those are conversations that I have in the community and on the radio and with my guests. Because I like to hear how people got to be the way that they are. Sometimes they don't realize how they got to be the way they are unless they say it out their mouth, and they be like, oh, yeah. And then we're having to relate in this conversation. So new philosophy, personal development education, new ideology. I would say it here. A lot of us are veterans mostly. If you are in the military, you have military benefits. CBT, cognitive behavior, number one for me for my trust and principles around my ideology, which is my thoughts. CBT teaches you to grab those thoughts. And is that story exaggerated? Or do you talk exaggerated like all or none? And do you experience life as a all or none experience? And of course, the theology. I had to get past the religious aspects of what my environment taught me about that, what the world has to say about religion. Okay, I agree. It's not religious. The Bible is not religion. It's not. I agree. It's not. It's a relationship. So then I had to go find my relationship with the Word. Well, the relationship with the Word says that Jesus Christ is the living Word. He was and is the living Word. So if I believe that Bible from cover to cover, I can't believe parts of it because you can't use half a principle. Gravity is gravity, is gravity, is gravity. Whether I drop a pen or a piece of paper, it's going down. That's gravity. So some of the things that we live by are that way too. So you have to find something to get new information of how you experience the gravity and how you think about the gravity and what the gravity was used for. So that's it. My ideology, philosophy, and the theology is the Bible as a relationship. And that's where I'm at today. And I'm here today because of that. Not because I want to be here. Yeah, not because I want to be here. I'm destined to be here. So the more that I practice those things until it's my time to go and my life is complete, I don't want to complete my life. I've had moments where I want to complete it because I don't want to be here no more. But now I'm destined to be here and I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring out for myself through what I believe and what I know. I know that personal development education works. I know that cognitive behavior works. And for me, I know that the Bible works. I told you in the beginning, my mom prayed for me to find something and I found it. And she told me, I prayed for that, for God to give you that. I didn't know what it was, but I prayed and believed and knew that he would find something for you to connect your life back to bring you back to him. And I did. And I acknowledged my mom for those prayers. And that'll be another conversation down the line. So segment 3, your subconscious mind. When your mouth is closed and your talking is going on and you're observing all the voices in your head, that voice in your head is not you. You are the one observing all of that chatter going on while your mouth is closed, talking to yourself. That's your spirit, and that's your heart, your subconscious mind. And that's the battle. And which one are you going to lead with your life? I led with my soul. I've been in church since 49. So 49 years, my soul led my life. At 49, I chose to have my spirit lead my life. So I got more old software from my soul that's got me to this point. So that old stuff is going to show up. I got less time living in this kingdom world than I do in my soul, in the world. So the kingdom world that I'm living in now spiritually versus the world that we live in, that they don't go together. And I understand that. I did the work around that. I found peace in that. They don't go together. I found my peace in that. They don't. I agree. So I appreciate you. We'll be back next Wednesday for segment number 4 to wrap it up. We're going to get more in depth of this last bit of this month, which is, of course, it's men's mental health month. So I'm not just talking to the men, though. I'm talking to the ladies too, because we all deal with something, right? So I appreciate you for listening in. I'm going to play this PSA, get out of here. Let me take that banner off there because we're done with that. All right, so that's all I got for right now. You want to reach out to me at Farron Dozier, that you see it right there. Right there. You can hit me up at that on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X. You can reach out. If you want to be a guest, hit me up over there with that. We'll set you up, all right? Again, thank you so much for your time. Again, at the end of the day, I walked away today with that God is love, right? I know that for myself today. God is love. Thank you.
Do you remember studying sickle cell in biology class? What's the Count on Sickle Cell Trait Prevention is here to bring you awareness, education, and prevention conversations around the risk factors of this inherited gene. Visit wdconsct.org.
Muchos de nosotros nos vemos afectados por la enfermedad de células falciformes a diario y un número creciente simplemente no nos damos cuenta. Los impactos de esta enfermedad afectan a todas las personas y en especialmente a las personas de color y con antecedentes diversos. Estar en servicio conmigo y con los demás a medida que creamos una mayor conciencia sobre cómo identificar y dirigir el tratamiento de los rasgos de células falciformes y ayudar a las familias a saber cómo superar el trastorno de células falciformes. WDCONS
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn, are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. Do you know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army, 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man.
There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.